We do have some big down-ballot matchups that are now set after Super Tuesday, including Senate matchups in two of the biggest states in the union and a battleground governor's race that could have major implications for the presidential race. In North Carolina, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who's a Trump-endorsed candidate, won the Republican nomination for governor last night, setting up a general election matchup with the Democratic Attorney General Josh Stein. Now, Democrats have been eager to tie Trump to Robinson's past controversial comments on LGBTQ rights and reproductive rights as well as some anti-Semitic comments, including parts of the Holocaust, quote, hogwash. Now, Robinson has acknowledged what he calls poorly worded Facebook posts, but he denies that he's anti-Semitic. Donald Trump won North Carolina in 2016 and in 2020. But Democrats are hoping that Robinson's name on the ballot could help drive Democratic turnout in the state this November. NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray joins me now to talk all about this. And let's talk about North Carolina. I mean, could Mark Robinson being on the ballot alone put that state in play for Democrats?
Yeah, Ryan, count me in the belief that I think North Carolina is in play no matter who is. I mean, number one, this is the marquee gubernatorial race of 2024, just like it was in the 2020 cycle, just like it was in 2016, given that it's battleground nature, just kind of the normal cycles. In midterms, they're usually more gubernatorial contests at play, but North Carolina, because of its importance and as well as like the fact that the parties are almost kind of politically polarized, this has always been the marquee gubernatorial race. So I expected that. And then I expect North Carolina to be a presidential battleground. Yes, Donald Trump won the state in 2016 and 2020. Republicans might have a little bit of an advantage, but Democrats would be foolish to kind of cede that ground because that is a potential pickup opportunity for them.
Barack Obama obviously did very well in North Carolina. And it's interesting, it also has a history of splitting, right? I mean, the Democrat won in 2020, even though Trump won. Mark Lauder, who's an advisor to Donald Trump in his campaign, said last night that it's actually Trump that could help Robinson. And even if he might be a drag, that Trump's popularity there will help him over the finish line. Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility, but here's my theory of the case, and this is 8 months out, that I think it's going to be hard to see that there's actually going to be a Donald Trump but Stein voter, or, you know, the opposite, where there would be like Joe Biden and Robinson voter. I think it's almost going to be absolute parity, where you're either going to vote for Joe Biden and Stein, or you're either for Trump and Robinson. And as controversial as Robinson is, don't forget that he was elected lieutenant governor just 4 years ago, the same election cycles that Roy Cooper ended up winning re-election. So there has been this kind of narrative, and that maybe he is damaged politically, but he won statewide race just 4 years ago. And in a presidential cycle, when Donald Trump's on top of the ticket, I don't think anyone should feel like, well, there's no way that he could end up winning in this race.
All right, let's move south to battleground Texas. This is the Democrats' white whale. They've been telling us that they can win Texas basically going back to 2008. They do have a strong candidate here in Colin Allred, who seems to have won 50% of the vote, meaning that he won't have to deal with a runoff, and then it's a one-on-one with him and Ted Cruz. Obviously, there was so much excitement around Beto O'Rourke's multiple campaigns in Texas. They turned out to not be enough. Is Colin Allred, can he do what Beto O'Rourke was unable to do in Texas?
The Democrats are hoping so, and this is their best pickup opportunity this cycle. And sometimes there's kind of a little ridicule of Beto O'Rourke's failed campaigns, particularly his last one for governor and his failed presidential campaign. But in 2018, he came within 2.5 percentage points of beating Ted Cruz. And that is the high water mark for any top-of-the-ticket Democrat statewide in more than 30 years. And so, you know, it remains to be seen whether Allred can actually match that, particularly when you think 2018 was a very favorable political environment, wasn't a presidential year.
Right.
It's the presidential factor that makes it hard, because, again, if Allred's going to be able to win and you assume that Donald Trump's going to win statewide in Texas, then Allred's got to win over some Trump voters, and that might be difficult.
A lot of splitting. All right, and we're not done talking about uncommitted. Last night in Minnesota, about 19% of the vote there voted for uncommitted over President Biden. Is this still something that Joe Biden's got to worry about?
It potentially is, although I do think that sometimes we've been focusing a little bit on, oh, he only won 80% of the vote, or as opposed to there was little competition. His main challenger, Dean Phillips, ended up dropping out today. I actually think Joe Biden has absolutely cruised to the Democratic nomination, and that's been overall storyline. And a lot of the concerns that we've seen, either from liberals when it comes to Gaza or some of the deterioration that he's had from the middle of the electorate, as well as other key parts of the Democratic base, are all evident for us to see in the polling, regardless of these uncommitted campaigns. President Biden has a lot of work to do, and starting with tomorrow night's State of the Union address.
We didn't forget about his big loss in American Samoa.
None of us were paying attention to that race last night. I'm going to
let that go.
Let's let it go.
All right, Mark Murray, as always, great analysis. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.